Ho, 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 gentlemen. The holidays have come early this year as Manscaped have the gift that keeps on trimming. Santa's beard isn't so appealing when it's coming out of your trousers, and that's why Manscaped, the leaders in below-the-waist grooming, have you covered this holiday season. Now available in your country, join the 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped to keep their trees trimmed and ornaments polished. Go to manscaped.com and use code DTR for 20% off plus free shipping.
Stafford under pressure, and a tuck it, and he's in. Darrell Henderson, he's off and running. Has Woods, touchdown. Cooper Kupp just went up and took it away.
Van Jefferson for the touchdown.
Aaron Donald smothers him. Jalen Ramsey put the pop on. Sacked by Leonard Floyd, having a day again. Darius Williams with a diving hit.
Jordan Fuller comes up with his second interception of the night.
All right, guys, welcome back to Downtown Rams. As always, I'm your host, Alexis Kraft, joined here with my co-host, Jake Ellenbogen. And guys, I'm coming to you live after the Rams loss to the Green Bay Packers today, 28-36 in Green Bay. Not a lot of fun, not a fun game, and we are going to talk about it, but I'm going to warn you guys, Jake actually, while he is here and being a trooper, he does not have much of a voice, so he is not going to be able to contribute as much as he normally does. I just want to give you guys a warning, so you don't think I'm trying to hijack the episode or anything. I just am having to talk more than normal, because Jake is standing on one leg right now, but we appreciate him for being here. So just to give a recap of this hellfire of the game, let me paint a picture for you. First, I'm going to paint a picture for you of my current state. I am in my room with all the lights off and a single candle lit, as I've done after the Rams have lost before, because it calms me down and I want to approach this episode with a level head. I've had a few hours to think about this. And guys, I'm assuming most of you watched the game, so you know that it wasn't pretty. And here's the thing. There's a lot of different things that we can talk about this game, but what I want to focus on here, first and foremost, is Matthew Stafford. Now, I'm going to point out that a report came out earlier this morning, according to a source, that Matthew Stafford has been dealing with some lingering injuries this season, and that he has chronic back pain, and I believe like chronic something else. It was basically stating that Matthew Stafford deals with a lot of chronic pain, and it's really been affecting him this season, which is something I don't doubt, because if you look at the way that he's playing, guys, Matthew Stafford is not playing well. In this game, he, threw a lot of times behind our receivers, a lot of times away from the receivers, took a sack quite a bit when he shouldn't have taken a sack, threw another pick six, threw another interception, just looked pretty bad. And, again, me and Jake will get into that later in the podcast, or at least I will get into it and Jake will give his thoughts as he can. But, Matthew Stafford not playing well. The play calling again, Sean McVay, absolutely horrible. A lot of really questionable calls, either not going for it, or a run on third down, or, when we're losing by a lot, the same old story there. And the defense, to me, in this game, guys, the defense to me is the biggest question mark here and the most infuriating thing, aside from Matthew Stafford playing horribly, aside from Sean McVay, making bad play calls. Our defense was going up against a third string offensive line and managed to get one sack. Or did we get 2 sacks, Jake? We got 1 sack, right? Greg Gaines?
Yeah, I think it was just one. They got some pressure, but yeah, it was just one.
Right, because there was another one I couldn't remember if it was Vaughn or someone else who managed to get Aaron Rodgers, but it wasn't counted as a sack. So we got 1 sack against a third string offensive line for the Packers. The Packers have a very beaten up offensive line, and quite frankly, a quite beaten up team, as do the Rams. I'm not going to say that we don't. We do have a lot of offensive players, especially who are out for this season. But the Packers offensive line, guys, they were starting their third string left tackle. Another guy was third string. Then that, the majority of that line was second string. It was just, it really was not acceptable for the Rams to have the all-star defensive front and defensive players that we do to only get one sack against this offensive line. I mean, that's what everyone was talking about going into this game, that the Rams were going to feast on this beaten up, Packers offensive line. And we did the opposite of feast. We kind of got our asses handed to us a lot on defense. The run game was horrible. The secondary was horrible. Gave up a lot of wide open, passes for Aaron Rodgers to receivers. And again, I'm going to mention that is Aaron Rodgers, which is something he typically tends to pull off no matter the team because he's very good. However, it is frustrating to watch, and I think what this boils down to, again, and this is, again, me rambling partially because I'm angry and partially because I'm buying time for Jake to get most of his voice back. But here's the thing, guys. We've now lost 3 games in a row. And this is something that I talked about with Jake off the air. My worry about this Packers game is I felt this was a must-win game for us, not just to get the W, because every win is important in this league. It was important for our momentum. We lost to the Titans and we lost to the 49ers, both really bad games. And we came out of a bye week. This is our game out of a bye week against the Packers. And I felt that it was really important for us to make a statement. It was really important for us to play well. And it was really important for us to prove that we don't choke and that we can come back from adversity, because that's kind of the narrative around this team right now, is that we don't come back from adversity, specifically Sean McVay. As we all know how it kind of goes. If he's leading at halftime, the Rams seem to be in good shape. If they're losing at halftime, they seem to melt down. And look at what happened today. And, I'm not going to say the Packers are a bad team. I think the Packers actually are a very good team. However, their offense was very, very beaten up, especially their offensive line. And it's just unacceptable. Even if they weren't, even if the Packers were at full strength, with the talent that we have on the Rams, I still would expect us to win. I'm not saying that we would go in there and blow up the Packers in Green Bay. Of course not. The Packers are a good team. I'm not discrediting them for that at all. They're a very good team with a very good coach. However, the Rams are also a very good team on paper. The Rams have gone all in for the Super Bowl this year. There's no doubt about it. And I tweeted this earlier. The Rams have put themselves in a position to where we have to win now. It's not just like, oh, that would be desirable if we go and win the Super Bowl this year. No, we have to go win the Super Bowl this year because we have basically given up our draft capital for years to come. There's a lot of free agents, coming up, in this offseason. A lot of the stars, namely like Von Miller, Odell Beckham Jr., these guys that we've got who might not even theoretically be with the team next year. So when you use the term win now in the NFL, there is no team that is in win now mode more than the Rams. So it is absolutely not okay and absolutely not excusable for us to be playing the way that we are, to be making the mistakes that we are, for Sean McVay to be play calling the plays that he is. It's just not okay. And I'm not trying to be negative. And I know that most of you agree with me. I'm on Twitter with the vast majority of you, and we're all having the same conversation. And again, I'm not going to claim to have the answers. I obviously have opinions. Jake has opinions. We talk about it a lot. We talk about it on Twitter. What's frustrating about this loss as well, and this is something Jake pointed out to me earlier, and something I agree with, is that we could have still won this game. The Packers did not play very well. The Packers did not play to their potential either. You look at their offensive line. I mean, their offensive line was barely holding on. I mean, they held on against us, unfortunately. They did an outstanding job for the guys that they had in there. But, Aaron Rodgers was under pressure a lot. Their defense is not like the best defense in the league. I mean, the Packers didn't play that well. They played well enough to beat us, but that's what's frustrating. What's frustrating is that we could have won this game. It wasn't, to me, like the Titans game where I felt we got absolutely dominated. I mean, the Packers obviously ran away with the game at certain points, and they were dominating us, but I felt like this was a game, especially as we started to pose somewhat of a comeback, that we could have won. And per usual, Sean McVay did not pull off the comeback. The Rams did not pull off the comeback. It just doesn't seem to be in our identity. And Jake, I know that you might not be able to say much on this, but I've been rambling for almost 10 minutes now, So I hope that I wasn't like making people's ears bleed. I was giving my truthful opinion. I also, like I said, I don't want you to have to strain your voice so much. But Jake, in your opinion, if you can give a brief, as much as you can, a brief synopsis of what you took away from this Rams-Packers game, and what you think the biggest topic surrounding this game should be, then we can talk about that.
Yeah, I look at this game and I just think they didn't really do anything as far as changing up what their scheming was and their game plan, and it just felt like they didn't really change anything about them coming out of the bye, and they just kind of went into the game with the same type of offensive mind and defensive mindset that they've had the last two losses, and just really disappointing. What was even more disappointing is the fact they had a chance for the whole game pretty much. I mean, they were always in it. Green Bay could not put them away even if they tried. Talk about the Koski fumble. If that doesn't happen, who knows if the Rams don't come away and win this game. I mean, that's how crazy it is. And they just gifted Green Bay, 3 points on that drive, and also, changed the momentum. Pick 6 from Stafford was just bad, but I'll just say this over and over again. Stafford may have played not his best football the last 3 weeks, but if you find yourself as one of those people that's saying, I'd rather have Jared Goff, I don't really have much to say about that. Stafford to this point in the season has 27 touchdowns to 9 interceptions. He's thrown for 3,316 yards. Jared Goff last year in 15 games, not 11. So 4 extra games. He had 20 touchdowns, 13 interceptions, and 3,952 yards passing. Stafford's essentially going to pass him in every category within the next game or two. But I guess if there's anything good to take away from this game, it's that, you see their ability to still move the football. I mean, it wasn't the best day at the office for the offense, but if we're talking about Matthew Stafford struggling in a game and still throwing over 300 yards and, throwing 3 touchdowns and interception, I mean, if that's struggling, man, I'll take that. Because there was a game last year against the Dolphins in which, Jared Goff threw away the ball 4 times, whether it be a fumble or interception against the Dolphins, and they held Tua Tagovailoa to under 100 yards of total offense, and they still they still lost by 11. So I don't know. I'm just really, I've talked about this obviously with you, and it's a bummer. I don't think that they're done. But as of right now, are they the Super Bowl team that I've been talking about them being all year? No, they have to earn that. They're no longer of that team, no longer in that tier, in my opinion. I think they're just a notch below the Cardinals. And, I think they're right there with the Packers. Had this game been at home in a better environment, sure, maybe they win. But you got to take care of business. And you can say what you will about them not winning this game, but they should have taken care of business against the Titans and the Niners. There was no excuse for that.
Yeah. I mean, that was kind of my thing with people on Twitter is, in our losses, we have to kind of keep perspective. There's really no excuse for the Rams losing this game. There were a couple weird calls, but again, guys, we got outplayed, and that's the story that we keep seeing with the Rams. We keep getting outplayed. We keep getting outcoached, and this goes back to the narrative. Sean McVay should not be play calling. He just shouldn't be, and I'm not taking anything away from him being a great head coach. He's an amazing play designer. We've seen that. He's proved that, but the plays that he's calling don't make sense. I'm not saying it's 100% on him. No loss has been 100% on Sean McVay. We have to hold players accountable as well. Matthew Stafford, we have to hold accountable. We have to hold receivers accountable for drops. We have to question why our defense multiple times this game, it took 5 guys to bring down Randall Cobb or another random Packers receiver. It doesn't make sense. So I'm not saying it's just on Sean McVay. But again, these play calls, especially at crucial times, Sean McVay kind of panics. I don't want to say kind of panics. He totally panics. He totally panics when he's down. And again, it's really, really sad that the narrative when we're down at half, is that it's kind of like a death sentence for Rams to win when they're down significantly at halftime. Like, that's like pretty pathetic in my opinion. It's unfortunate that we have to have this feeling historically because Sean McVay doesn't bounce back. Sean McVay doesn't overcome adversity. And I'll be honest, for a while that narrative was like super annoying when people would say that. And I'm like, come on, it hasn't been that consistent. But now it's been pretty consistent. I mean, that's what we always seem to see. And I don't know what the answer is other than Sean McVay giving up play calling. I don't see that happening, at least this season. I would hope that would be something that would happen. I don't think that Sean McVay will do that. I don't know if he's in complete denial. I don't know if he just doesn't care. I just know that he has to be aware that it's something that people talk about, and he still has not, made any word on that or has given any indication that that's something he's willing to give up. But I think, it's kind of beating a dead horse when we talk about Sean McVay and the play calling, because again, I don't think that it's something that is going to change. Now I want to talk a little bit about, the Stafford thing that I mentioned earlier. I mean, again, there's these narratives, right? There's these narratives surrounding Sean McVay. The narrative surrounding Matthew Stafford is that he doesn't play well in prime time, that he chokes, that he's never won a playoff game, all of this stuff. Now, Jake, do you think at this point it's safe to say that that's valid? That's a valid narrative? I mean, we've lost 3 games in a row, 2 of them prime time, where Matthew Stafford played pretty atrociously. I'm not going to say that all of the losses have been on him, but the main variable is him and Sean McVay in those losses. I mean, you look at Matthew Stafford throwing a pick 6 in all of them, tonight. No exception, throwing interceptions, throwing behind receivers a lot, obviously still making some good plays like the touchdown to Odell Beckham and, the one to Van Jefferson, he still has that ability. But what is it that kind of seems to get in his head? Is it that there's a chronic injury issue? Because if that's so, that's a bigger conversation for a guy that we just gave up 2 years of first round draft picks for. I mean, is this something to be concerned about? I mean, what do you think is the reason that he's not playing well?
I will answer that right after I finish this ad read, which I'm going to try and pull through, like you just said, with the whole your tweet about like Jordan game, the flu game. So Let's see how well this goes. But we hope you didn't fill up on Turkey Day, because at MyBookie, the fun is just getting started. This Cyber Monday, MyBookie is giving you a bet one, get one free promotion on Monday Night Football games. On Cyber Monday, bet against the spread on Week 12 Monday Night Football game, and whenever you wager up to $100, you'll receive that same value back in a risk-free bet for Week 13's Monday night game. MyBookie is the only sports book where buy one, get one means you're the one holding the bag. Don't miss out. Head to mybookie.ag this Monday to get in on the exclusive promotion. Set yourself up for success by doubling your first deposit when using our promo code JKDTR at MyBookie. That's promo code JKDTR to double your initial deposit all the way up to $1,000. Bet anything, anywhere, anytime with MyBookie.
Girls, I don't know about you, but I'm tired of finding a bush when I go down in my man's chimney. Dear Santa, all I want this holiday season is for my man to have smooth jingle balls. Thankfully, Manscaped answered with the Performance Package 4.0, so I don't have to find Santa's beard in my man's pants again. Ladies, this holiday season, get your man products that will leave him smelling fresh with their all-new ultra-premium body wash and a 2-in-1 shampoo and conditioner. It's time to give the man in your life the gift of beautiful skin, hair, and balls this holiday season. Go to manscaped.com and use code DTR for 20% off plus free shipping.
Okay, somehow we did that. So I guess kind of my takeaway on this, Alexis, I've been really big on Troy Reeder. I've defended him a lot. I'm really starting to feel like the Rams have some pinpointed, weaker links that are really holding this team back. And I don't know. I want to ask you a question, actually. Would you agree with me in saying that this defense hasn't looked the same since they traded Kenny Young?
Yeah, because we don't have and haven't had, honestly, Kenny Young was the closest thing we've had to this in a long time, but that hard-hitting, dominant inside linebacker that I keep screaming about for years for the Rams to draft or sign. we just were missing it. I think the Rams drafted Ernest Jones in the hopes that that's what he will become. I mean, I think that Ernest Jones has shown some promise. He's not, I wouldn't say so far, that he's a standout inside linebacker, the kind that obviously, I'd want to have. But I'll tell you what, Troy Reader's not.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but Ernest Jones, no one is going to hold accountable because he's a rookie, and it's all the glitz and glamour and the all of that. Like, oh, we can't. He's our rookie. He was a 3rd round pick. We're really hyped about him, so we can't hold him accountable. But I mean, he's not playing all that well. I think the linebackers just aren't that great. I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing Traven Howard get some action. Wouldn't mind seeing Terrell Burgess play linebacker. I mean, I don't know why Burgess isn't playing. I mean, Nick Scott dropping the interception actually led them to punting it and then receiving the punt and then fumbling. So there's that. No, I just think that there's a pinpoint issue with the linebacker position. First off, secondly, the offensive line is struggling and no one wants to admit it because that's not the sexy thing to talk about anymore. That people are used to when the offensive line was playing well. Matthew Stafford with his chronic, going back to what you were talking about, I do think that is real. I don't think that stuff was just thrown out there. My question is, if he's really that hurt, why is he actually playing? And 2, my favorite thing, why was he not on the injury report?
Matthew Stafford?
Yeah, not on the injury report.
What I'm understanding is that this is like a chronic issue. Like, this isn't something that he can sit out and let heal. That was my takeaway.
There's other stuff like his ankle. It's like his ankle, his arm, his elbow, and his shoulder and his back. Like, I mean, he's like, but right. I mean, and it's also Matthew Stafford his whole career. So, it's like.
Yeah. Well, and again, that's my understanding is that these are long-term issues that he's had and will continue to have. So again, that is worrisome, knowing how much we gave up for Matthew Stafford and knowing that we are tied to him for a while. I would hope that that's something that the Rams are aware of. Again, we don't know the full extent of this. It's a pretty reliable source. I mean, it was reported on by a lot of reputable news organizations. So I think that it is very real, as you said. It wasn't super specific, other than chronic back pain, I think chronic ankle and some other chronic stuff going on. But it is concerning, especially when you see the way that he's playing, because he's not playing well. Again, let's not be dramatic. Let's not say we should have Goff. But he's not playing well. And I don't necessarily know what the root cause is. Like I said, is it that the narrative is true that he does not play well under pressure, primetime, whatever? Is it that he's having, chronic injuries and he's just not feeling good out there? I don't know. Only he knows that. The Rams might know that. It is something to look out for. Again, there's not a whole lot that we can do about it. I'm not going to say, oh, well, we should play John Wolford or Bryce Perkins or whatever. I'm not going to go that far. Matthew Stafford is our starting quarterback, but it is not fun to watch him play the way that he's been playing. I mean, he has not been playing to par. It's been bad. I don't know if there's something else you wanted to say about Stafford before we moved on, or.
Well, it's funny because I don't know if you've used this before, but I know people use this narrative a lot. I'm not saying you're wrong. I get it. But, I've had a couple tweets that, came back at me about Stafford wasn't brought in to have better stats. He was brought in to win games. Goff couldn't. Here's my rebuttal to that. Stafford was brought in as an addition onto what they had last year. Since Stafford has been acquired, that defense is not number 1 in the league. He does not have Cam Akers. It's not the same team, essentially. On top of that, I mean, if you really look at it, McVay isn't running the same offense. I still think that's somewhat holding Stafford back, ironically, because I think he is so obsessed with wanting to throw the ball. They run about 62% of the time, or pass 62% of the time. I just don't think that works well with the Rams. I think Sean McVay runs he ran a modified West Coast style offense, which, is predicated on the play action passing attack. Well, you can't run the play action if you're not running the football, and they just don't run it enough. And in a game that was a close game early on, they basically once again abandoned the run. It's like, clockwork. And it's just, I don't know. That's kind of my thought, is that it's not as simple as saying, well, Stafford was brought in to win the games Goff couldn't. Because here's the thing, if Stafford joined last year's team, that would be coming in to win the games Goff couldn't. Okay. These games you have to take with a grain of salt. It's all about getting to the postseason. What I do find funny is people will completely X out the win against Tom Brady, who is like everyone calling the GOAT. They'll X that out in beating the defending champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers because it makes their narrative and their argument sound better than it is. But in reality, the Rams lost to two good teams. The Niners, the jury's still out on them. They're getting hot. But they lost to two good teams, and they lost to arguably the two best teams in maybe all of football with the Packers and the Cardinals. So, it's tough. Like, obviously Stafford, you want him to win those games, but I mean, it's not just Stafford. I mean, the thing is also at this point last year, the Rams, I believe it was the Patriots game. I'm going to check it actually right now because I believe it was the Patriots game. The Rams went against the Patriots, and Cam Akers might have been week 12. But Cam Akers last year had a 171-yard game. Nope, never mind. That was week 14. But the point is that they got Cam Akers going on the ground after week 11. And, I just feel like the Rams are just such an easy offense to figure out. McVay isn't doing any favors for anybody. It's like, that's really what it comes down to, is that, last year, if you notice how the Rams were winning games, they were winning them like ugly, and then they won it. They lost 2 straight to the Jets and the Seahawks, and they came back. They beat Arizona using John Wolford, his legs to extend the play. And they didn't have Darrell Henderson, but then the playoffs, they really rode the coattails of Cam Akers. It's like McVay is just really inconsistent. Like, does he like Henderson? Does he trust Henderson, or does he not? Because I really can't tell. I mean, this is somebody that could run for 100 yards every game if he allowed him to do it. But, once again, it was just another game where, we didn't really feel like running the ball this time, even though, it's freezing cold. You don't want your injured quarterback to be throwing a lot, but he runs for 16 carries. It's not all on one person, but I definitely think McVay has to change his ways, or the Rams are going to have a hard time climbing themselves out of this little hole that they've fallen into, which isn't super big because it's they're 7-4, but it could get really bad if they don't, quickly change their approach. And I think a big thing is they got to go back to the play action passing attack, and they got to run the ball more. They need to adapt to the fact that, hey, you can't keep running this, empty set 5 wide when, look at OBJ got hurt. If OBJ doesn't play next week, you're dealing with Cooper Kupp, Van Jefferson, and JJ Koski as your receivers because Ben Skoranek is hurt too. So, you gotta be able to adapt or die. That's the league. It always has been. No one is going to feel bad for you about Robert Woods. That time is over. Figure a way out. And also, you weren't winning before Robert Woods. So, they got to figure it out quickly.
Well, and they replaced Robert Woods with Odell Beckham Jr. So, and people can say, oh, well, Odell Beckham Jr., tonight was his first touchdown in 420 days, whatever, but he's still very, very talented. It's not like we just have a random receiver that we've replaced Robert Woods with. This is a guy who's very talented. So you're right. There's no excuse there. I just think, to point to go back to your point about the run game, I don't understand it. It works. Henderson is a very good running back. Every time we run the ball, we seem to have success. I don't know why Sean McVay, again, like I've said about him, it's like he always wants to do the flashy thing. He always wants to pass. He wants to light it up. He wants to play Madden. He wants to do whatever. Just run the damn ball. It works. And in games like tonight, we should have ran the ball more because every time that we did, we had success. It just doesn't make sense. I don't think it has anything to do with Henderson. I think it truly has to do with Sean McVay and what he's trying to do and what he wants to do. But the last point that I want to bring up is something somebody asked me this on Twitter, was the defense's inability to get a 3-and-out at the start of a drive. We had 1 today on 11 Packer possessions. Again, this just goes into the narrative about the defense and does bend not break really benefit us? And why could we not get more done against a pretty bad Packers offensive line? The answer is, I don't know. I don't know. There's no excuse. There's no, well, this happened. Well, it truly, there's no excuse. And we kind of talked about that earlier. I don't know what the answer is. I don't know if we need to move away from bend, don't break. I don't know if we can. I don't know what Morris's plan is. But again, how much is that going to do? You know, how much of it is the scheme and how much of it is just the Rams players not stepping up? I mean, do you have any thoughts on that?
I just don't think Morris is really that much in control with the defense. It's a lot. It's really predicated on Sean McVay and what he wants to do. I think at the end of the day, you look at this defense and they're still not a horrible defense, but there are times where they go through these bad stretches and, it happened early on. They kind of, buckled down a little bit. They got 3 straight stops. The Rams offense came away with 0 points on those 3 straight stops. It's like, at some point or another, you have to play complementary football. And I mean, I said it on the live stream. I mean, this team, Sean McVay always talks about complementary football and winning games and how offense, defense, special teams, all of that, all 3 phases lost this game. I mean, the defense, they played well down the stretch, but it was too little too late. The offense, they took way too long to get going. And then the special teams unit with the fumble and the offsides, which, I mean, you and I both thought it was ticky-tack, but still charged the special teams, So, I mean, it's the thing is with the defense is that it looks worse than it really is because of the bend don't break. Personally, Alexis, I wouldn't play the bend don't break. I'm more of an aggressive style, type of defense. If I were to, call my own plays or whatever, I'd play more bump and run. I'd utilize the physicality that Jalen Ramsey possesses. I wouldn't allow Devontae Adams to breathe. I would have Jalen Ramsey on him one-on-one the whole game. And I just think the problem is when you play bend don't break. I mean, it's not that I think. I mean, this is the problem. When you play bend don't break, it's to stop the big plays. You shouldn't be seeing these giant, bombs to Devontae Adams and Marquez Valdes-Scantling, and you shouldn't have that happening when you're playing bend don't break. It's to keep everything in front of you, to hold them to a field goal, not give up the big plays, not give up a touchdown. Here's the problem, though: when it doesn't work, you're giving up time. So the time of possession battle, you get absolutely destroyed in, and on top of it, when you really think about it, the defense is on the field 2 games worth of time in 1 game. So that's really been the issue with the Rams, is that they can't get their defense off the field. Defense gets tired. And then it gets to the point where you throw a bomb to OBJ, you come right back and you throw a touchdown to OBJ. Yeah, that's great and all. You got points on the board, but guess what you just did? You put your defense back on the field and they got about a minute or 2 of a breather. It's a legit thing, fatigue. And I feel like just playing this, regardless if it was a 17-game season or not, playing this is not going to be great as far as winning games. But the 17-game season, they are really stretching themselves thin. It could be the reason that they've gotten, they've had some injuries in the defense. I mean, they're on the field a lot. So, I just think I was hoping that they would come out and not run that this week, but yeah, they played more bend don't break and the soft shell coverage that I hate and just giving yards. I also think the defense looks worse than it actually is because the again, the linebacker play, which, by the way, they didn't bring back Corey Littleton, and they haven't really, drafted linebackers like how you and I wanted certain backers in the past. It's all been because the scheme, but now it's not working. So now you have to kind of look at yourself in the mirror like, maybe in the draft, do you think we need to, take a gander at a sideline to sideline linebacker that could be a game changer? Because it's starting to feel like, you're not immune to that. You could definitely use another linebacker. The pass rush is good, but it's not clicking on all cylinders. And, the secondary isn't playing man, and, their zone coverage, it's okay at times, and at times it gets brutalized. So it just kind of goes back to what we've been saying the whole time. There's going to have to be adjustments that need to be made. Otherwise, they're not going to, they'll make the playoffs, no doubt, but we're talking Super Bowl when it comes to the Rams. So there won't be a Super Bowl in their future if they can't, bounce back from this loss and just, rip off a bunch of wins in the upcoming weeks.
Yeah, I agree. It's just, I hope that we can get it together. And next week we play Jacksonville. So this is a perfect opportunity for
Trevor
the
Lawrence
Rams.
Beats Matthew Stafford.
If we lose to the Jaguars, honestly, guys, I don't know what to tell you anymore. That's just going to be a sign that things are just not going our way this season. I'm not trying to diss the Jaguars. They literally have one of the worst records in the NFL. So this is a game that we really have no excuses for, truly, even though we didn't have any tonight either. I mean, against Jacksonville, we should be able to pull it off. And Jake, I have to say, I tweeted earlier that this was my Michael Jordan flu game because I had to, I was told that I was going to have to talk for like 80% of this podcast, but you really rallied. I think this is your Michael Jordan flu game because
I just hope I don't have the flu.
Well, I hope that you don't have the flu either. But yeah, I honestly did not, know that you were sick until I heard your voice and you were like, yeah, you're going to have to carry this episode. And I'm really glad. I gave you
the keys to the car. I was just like, you drive.
Well, I'm really glad that you got back kind of in the driver's seat and were able to rally, because I'm sure people just would have maybe turned the podcast off had I had to talk for like 20 minutes straight. No one wants to hear that, especially after the kind of very fun. Not a very fun one.
Yeah, I got to bring up an old memory of you and I, and I'll never forget it. It was during a Rams laughable loss. Like, they hadn't even lost yet. It was just bad. It was the Rams and the Ravens on Monday Night Football. And I remember our preview, you and I talked about this game for like the whole week. We would text and be like, this game is going to be so awesome. Like, the Rams are playing Lamar Jackson. Like, I think they can win this. We talked ourselves into believing they were going to win. Not that like they were going to win big, but they were going to win. And I'll just never forget, like, it's the third quarter, they're down like 44-6, and we're just like laughing. We're like, hey, do you want to record the podcast now? Like,
yeah.
Actually, yeah. And we literally during the podcast, we're like, yeah, so we're coming to you literally as the game is going. It's like,
I literally stopped watching it. Like, I wasn't even recording the podcast while watching. This was back when I was in my old place and I recorded in my closet. So I was just like in my closet and I was like, yeah, I really don't care about anything else that's happening this entire fourth quarter. I mean,
it's so funny.
That was a brutal game.
I mean, I've never seen just total domination the way that Ravens running game just ripped through the Rams. I mean, whether it was Lamar Jackson or if it was, Mark Ingram or any of them. I mean, it was just, run after run after run. And it was like, all right, you're not going to be able to stop them once. Like, it was insane. And it was annoying because they were wearing the all yellow, and it was giving us those, Monday Night Football, all yellow at the Coliseum. Okay, this is going to be like the Chiefs game. And then it was nothing like
it was like game. We just got Utterly embarrassed. So, guys, I guess the moral of the story is this game could have been worse today.
I mean, a lot worse.
A lot worse. But again,
the Rams scored 11 unanswered in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I mean,
you can look at it however you want. I'm going to choose to look at it like that.
Yeah, I mean, let's just forgive but not forget. We forgive the Rams and everyone for what happened today, but we need to correct these issues. And I think the game against the Jaguars is the perfect opportunity to bounce back, to get some confidence, to get momentum swinging our way. Because, like I said, that was kind of my worry, losing 3 in a row. What was that going to do to this team's confidence and momentum? Obviously not good things. So we'll see how it goes, guys. Thank you for sticking with us. Thank you for your interactions on social media, especially during the game today. We were all suffering together. It just was, again, like I said, not fun. But we're moving on. We'll be back later this week with a preview game for the Jaguars game. But as always, guys, if you like what you hear, please like and subscribe. You can follow us on social media at Downtown Rams. You can follow me on Twitter at the Alexis Craft. You can follow Jake at JK Bogan. And until next time, guys, stay safe, take care, and go Rams. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code DTR at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com, and make sure to use code DTR. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped.